Hi guys. Sorry, I guess we're running a bit late, but now we can start. I'm excited. I hope you are excited as well. We have wonderful people here on stage with me. My name is Pekari. I'm here moderating this session, representing here Music Finland and Music Tech Europe. Most of my professional career in the music business, I've been an ecosystem builder, trying to get people from different sides of the music industry and also other industry verticals to sit in the same tables and try to develop new cool stuff. And I guess with the emergence of AI and hundreds of new companies producing generative AI content, we are again in a situation where we need to find out some new solutions in order to both help tech companies to be copyright compliant, but also on the other hand, create new ways in order to manage, to track, and to finally monetize content that have been either created by generative AI or assisted with AI to create revenues for the right holders. So that's the agenda of today's conversation, and let's do a round of introductions first, starting from Mr. Dan Archer.
Hi, I'm Dan. The microphone's on, eh? Yeah. I've been an AI software developer since 1998. I built my first neural network in C++ back then. It was way too early, of course. I was the AI technology diplomat for the Dutch government in Japan between 2006 and 2011. Also way too early, very much robotics, life sciences. And as we all have seen now with ChatGPT, most of the AI developers I know, everybody's like, what happened? Suddenly it's there. And everybody was always looking at the robotic side of AI. But what happened with AI? It's the whole 25 years that we trained on. So with Copyright Delta, we look at how can we use blockchain technologies under AI to make accountable AI. And we'll talk more about that in a second.
Will.
Cool. I'm Will Hugues. I'm Vice President of Account Management and Customer Success for Audible Magic. And we are a audio fingerprinting technology provider. We help UGC platforms and AI generative platforms and also music distribution companies to ensure that they do not distribute infringing content. We work across the spectrum of use cases, like I mentioned, user-generated content. But in the AI space, we're doing a lot more work with scanning companies' data sets, but we're also looking at developing new technologies to help attribute rights in the outputs of generative AI models.
Jenn.
Hi, my name is Jenn. I'm the CEO of Audiosocket. Audiosocket is a music licensing company. We represent over 3,000 bands and artists all over the globe with about 100,000 copyrights. We globally clear them so we can integrate into virtual worlds, into platforms like Canva, CapCut, and then we also have a film and TV side as well as a user-generated content side with kind of a self-service marketplace. We recently redrafted our contracts to include an AI clause so that we could collaborate with innovators in the AI realm. We are doing that in a way that I believe to be very ethical. And I actually ran a YouTube series where I went out to explore what are the needs of solutions that we as the industry drive in order to go to the big tech and say, here's our solution driven by our interests. But I'm very excited about the opportunities that Gen AI presents, not where it just replaces human art, that's not of interest, but where it's collaborating with, it's got provenance, and it's got equitable solutions. So that's why I'm here.
Maybe we can first talk a little bit about the underlying technology, and perhaps maybe Will, you could explain a little bit how the identification of AI music differentiates from the other stuff Audible Magic is doing with fingerprinting.
Sure. So obviously, fingerprinting has been around for a long time. Audible Magic started in '99, so been in the game for a long while now, and that technology really is, based upon finding copies of existing master recordings. And obviously, we know that, that content is required to be in a database. And obviously, with AI-generated content, it hadn't existed before, so it is not in a database. So, the various algorithms that exist today, we can identify things that are versions of. So, for example, AI vocal covers, things of that nature. We have the ability to identify those out in the wild and have some success with that today. But really, it's new developments, figuring out exactly, the industry problems that we need to solve, and we take direction from the rights owners in that space to say, okay, what exactly do you want us to develop? And, we can go and do that. I think the big issues today for us are a three-pronged issue, identifying whether something has been, generated by an AI for a differentiated royalty rate. That's one problem that we see and we get talked to about quite often. The other piece is infringement. Has that content been trained, the model that created that content been trained on unlicensed material? So that's the other kind of lens that we're looking at this from. And I guess the third is more around the TDM. So, rights owners having the ability to opt out of having their content trained on, varying models and having, the ethical piece that you were discussing. So.
But yeah, Audible Magic is mainly working with recording music side.
Sure. Yeah.
So, of course, when we think about monetizing or licensing Gen AI music, we need to take in account also the other side, publishing rights. And Dan, explain us a little bit how Copyright Delta is working in this topic, basically to also cover the publishing rights in order to get the big picture about who owns what in order to be able to manage Gen AI content.
Yeah, if we take a high-level perspective, I think there's three things needed to help build accountable AI. The first one is top-down legislation, more governments saying human creative above machine. Then we've got like a middle layer. It's more like AI fighting AI. That's what you're doing, because then you look at the infringements and the detection of that. At the bottom of that, you still need something like a derivative IP management layer. It's like the attribution layer. People have tried to build a GRD, a global repertoire database. It's still hard to find where are the rights from Jenn and all hers on the recording side. Then you've got the societies. So somehow you have to glue that together. And we come from the field of blockchain technologies. But we do it in such a way that everybody can always control their own data. So it's like a systems layer. We're now kickstarting with 6 societies, an AI opt-out and licensing network. The first part is going live in about 2 weeks. And there we did a mapping between ISWCs to ISRCs. Next steps is with Audible, because they've got a whole list of recordings. Because then you can have like the full mapping in there. And then we can help Jenn clear those rights into the AI. And then also links that into the moral rights. So I still believe there's need for that system layer at the bottom, but it only works if it's truly neutral, truly agnostic. It cannot be about NFTs and those stuff. It's just a system layer at the bottom. And then you have top-down regulation. In the middle, AI fighting AI, which is Audible Magic at speed. And then like some kind of derivative IP layer. Basically, it's a marketplace. And then you have like end-to-end royalties with multiple parties working together. Our approach.
Yeah, you mentioned the B word. Blockchain has been a forbidden word in music conferences for the last couple of years, but now when you said it out loud, tell us how you use blockchain and why is that useful?
Let's not make it about blockchain, but maybe I can make a small comparison to 1998. Do you remember the old Nokia phones we had? And then there was WAP, the mobile internet. And what happened is that, sorry to say, the marketeers started pushing the mobile internet really heavy. But it was just a Nokia phone with a black line. And then any mom and pop bakery would say, well, I'll be around in the next 5 years. And then it took about 2008 when we had smartphones with GPS. And that's when the mobile internet took off. So often happens with technologies like this, it's 10 years too early, then people start pitching it, people start resenting it, and they have to wait. And it's kind of the same with blockchain. In 2015, people started pitching it, and now it's getting close to 225. The other one I would like to say is that every startup needs a killer app, but every blockchain technology needs an existential threat, because then you're willing to work together. And I come from Holland, and in 1953 we had a flooding, and afterwards everybody worked together to build dikes. That's why in Holland we're still alive. So in the case of blockchain, there's multiple use cases. We have another product going live with Buma Stemra, the Dutch society. So they have 40,000 members, and they all want to timestamp and prove that they created some lyrics or some content or a sample. Because just in case if an AI plagiarizes or a human plagiarizes, you can show it. So for that we use traditional timestamping. And in the case of splits and ownership, we store it in the clouds of people. So everybody always stays in control of their own data. So we actually have integrated 2 blockchains in there.
Jenn, Audiosocket, as a catalog company, licenses music. If you think about opportunities in the Gen AI space and think what kind of building blocks you need as a company in order to monetize your content, what are you looking for right now?
Yeah, and Dan and I have been discussing this exact thing. That's why somebody introduced us. So as I mentioned, and really this is what I said to all of our artists when I hosted a call, invited all 3,000 and said, whoever wants to learn how we're going to handle AI, please join. And so we took a 2-tiered path, one of which we said we are training tools, things that are creating efficiencies, things that are not generating new content. That's part of our agreement. The other part of the agreement will be working with scientists and engineers to develop a solution. Again, I want to keep saying, by our industry, for our industry. And so provenance and equitable solutions. So there has to be an equitable path forward when new material is created. And what's exciting is Dan and I started meeting, I think, 6 months ago. And when he started demonstrating to me the power of the technology, it started giving me a lot more confidence because we've been getting hit up by a ton of companies about generative AI opportunities. And a lot of those are actually really exciting, fun opportunities. I have Gen A children, and they love to engage, and they want to create, and they want to iterate. And I want to enable our catalog to be created with and iterated with. But I also want our artists to be making money across the board. And so I think it's fair, and I think it's something that there's technologies that we're basically, I think, close to getting to where we need to be.
If I may, I think that's a really important point, because the model for licensing data sets needs to be accelerated because of the amount of opportunity there from a technology perspective, with lots of new companies coming out and creating new interesting use cases that need data to train their models on, ethically, properly, not just generative, but artist assistive tools. I think, from the rights owner community need to, could possibly learn a thing from your model. Maybe you could speak about the model a little bit, maybe not too deeply, but give us a bit of insight, because, I think it would help.
Yeah, so as far as training for efficiency purposes, we actually have something called Start With Me, and it's basically a program that enables startups to affordably get started. I think that one of the biggest barriers to entry for startups is the complexities of getting these deals done. The nice thing is we can get a deal done within a few hours or a day, and with startups we can do that affordably. Again, I think the biggest thing to understand is that this isn't a one and done. It's not, it costs this much and then that's it. It's an affordable model that gets you started. And like the name suggests, we start with you. And then as you grow and build your business, we're right there alongside you with all of the rights that are needed. And so that's basically how we work. But we are globally cleared, and we are able to integrate into all of these platforms and have been doing so since 2011 with Vimeo. So, yeah.
I have a question to Jenn instantly, because you're doing a lot of licensing into gaming platforms. How do you see the difference between licensing into gaming and into AI? Are you taking different provisions in that?
Because AI is such a new thing, we have trained, like our music has trained a number of, again, the sort of efficiency, more what we would call traditional AI. We have not yet embarked upon our first generative AI model. We are in conversations with a few companies. So yeah, I can't speak to having done that yet, but with gaming, it's straightforward. It's really just they want to enhance the game with, music within, or they want to keep people longer in the virtual worlds, and so they're able to playlist and curate and engage.
What kind of response you are receiving from AI companies? Are they willing to collaborate?
This conference has been amazing. I didn't know what to expect when I was invited, and what's really cool is I think the vibe is right here. I think there's a lot of people in tech, a lot of innovators that are actually looking to do something collaboratively, and that's exciting to me. Yes, the companies I've been talking to, at least when they approach me about it, they all seem collaborative. So I'm getting a good sense of that. I think there's companies that don't want to, and there's always going to be companies that are just going to bypass the system. And I think because the music industry has historically been so difficult to navigate, that's what's really encouraged sort of bypassing the systems. But my hope is companies like Audiosocket, similar companies, we provide an alternative path for that. And I always say right now that the music industry feels like it's still built for an analog world. It has all these dependencies. Where is it going after there? Is it going to be 13 weeks? Is it going to be this long? Are you going to take it off the internet? These are dependencies that make operating a business really super difficult. So what we try to do is just work in a way that is very visible, very transparent, and you know exactly what you're getting now as well as in the future.
Dan, you just also mentioned that you're kind of using AI as a threat to market the solution for the industry, and since Copyright Delta is already dealing with multiple societies, we have some societies here in this room as well. What's their response to your offering?
So far, it's been very good. Especially since if you have a mandate on behalf of law to protect your owners, you need to make it visible, and you have to send a letter to all the AI companies. And we were thinking, how can we optimize that and automate that so you can instantly be the contact point to 800 AI companies. And you mentioned the TDM, which is the text and data mining. Just in case if you have more questions about this, right there is Mars Mertens, the guy with the glasses. He's our TDM expert, if you want to have questions afterwards. Because that's the AI companies also that we talk to. So we have two sides of the market. You've got the societies and the rights owners, and you have the AI companies. And a lot of the AI companies we talk to are like, hey, great, could we have a set of 500,000 songs that we can train on? If all the rights have been cleared by the societies, by the publisher, by the label, we're good to go. And then we can create like a derivative IP royalty model there. And if not all the rights have been cleared, it's not gone green. So we now have a nice dashboard with a lot of information from societies. We're mapping this now to the recording side. And then when you see everything is green, then it could be licensed. But those are now the next steps.
I mean, talking about the TDM and those mechanisms to be able to tell a platform that they cannot use a piece of content. The way we operate today is we provide a platform with business rules, and that business rule is set by the rights owner. And in the UGC world, we see rules like block or allow or monetize, right? And it's as simple as changing a few pieces of code to add an opt-out AI-related metadata tag that we can then, respond, and we're looking to implement that too. And also, partnerships where we can, by and large, cover off most of the rights owners in the world.
And if I can add, see what Audible is doing is the very important work. You're like the barrier, the detection barrier. Our job is just to connect the rights owners at the bottom in a neutral way. And you mentioned already that you're working with some AI companies, and then you tell them what they can train on or not train on.
Right. Yes, exactly. In two manners, we'll do kind of a training set scanning where a company will come to us with a training set, and we will scan that content and provide them with the information, which rights owner, an ISRC code, the artist, all of that good metadata that's required, and then they can pull that out of their data set. But we also do work with platforms that allow user uploads. So the one we can discuss is Stable Audio, has a user upload mechanism where you can, create and also iterate on your own ideas. We will scan that to make sure that, that isn't really infringing content and it is somebody playing guitar or singing into their microphone.
Yeah. Can I add some words of inspiration here? See, collectively, if we all work together, we can build like walls of containment towards the AI companies. Make it easy for them to register what they trained on, make it easy for them to know what not to train on, so people cannot say, it's so difficult. The music industry is so difficult. Because all we have to do is develop SDKs and APIs. Because as a software developer, I just want to have a data connection point. Before I start my training, what can I train on, what not? Make it easy for them. Be pragmatic. That's the approach, I would say.
So basically, in your case, Will, it's the AI companies that are paying for Audible Magic in order to get the information if they are able to use content for training or not.
That's correct, and the platform side are always the paying customer. In our case, the rights owner can deliver content to us for free. So any record label who has the ability to drop off files in a SFTP and add some metadata to it, we can ingest that. Obviously, we prefer DDEX, but we can take in data, and we are, I think, ingesting currently about 140,000 record labels, both pre-release and catalogs. So,
yeah, imagine the scale for this. I heard from a company like Music DNA that they do about 150,000 checks somewhere, and now they're being requested for 3 million. So that scale will go up.
Yeah, I mean, and from a identification request stat, we're doing approximately 7 or 8 billion ID requests on a monthly basis. Not just in UGC, but obviously AI-related companies, but also the supply chain. So music distributors are also using our tech.
Can I ask a tech question? So one of the expectations is that now with the AI models are becoming more and more open source. Facebook is fighting OpenAI, they'll open source it all, so that's good. In 2 years from now, could it be that there's a lot of new AI software that becomes also really good at detecting? So do you think that the detection mechanisms will improve also?
Yes, and I mean, I think it will force us to do the same. I think the pressure from all sides, rights owners, legal, AI companies themselves will force that to get better, but also force companies like ours to do more partnerships and work together, to solve the issue at large. I think that's an important point to make. It's, we have a specific part in the supply chain, I guess you'd call it, of detecting content, and we do one thing very well, and the need for partnerships is pretty key in this area, specifically as it's developing literally every day. Yeah. Something will change whilst we're sitting here, for sure.
And in Holland, in 1953, it happened the same thing. Then we built dikes. That's why in Holland we still have land.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the business opportunity. How do you envision the potential revenues for your clients coming from Gen AI platforms in the future? Is it relevant?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's where the world is going. So I think just like the way that we saw the digitization of music, I think we're going to see another huge wave of opportunities in AI. And again, that's why it's so critical right now. Like, it's all happening right now. And it's critical that, again, we come together collaboratively. And when I say come together collaboratively, I mean like everybody comes together to the table and says, here's what it looks like. These are the needs, these are the permission sets, this is how it works. And then, again, working with engineers that are building these things and making them possible. Because it's going to happen with us or without us. And the music industry for far too long has allowed it to happen without us. And then technology gets built out of lawsuits. And that is not in our best interest as the music industry or the rights industry, regardless of what creative capacity you may be within. So I think it's sort of like the call to action right now is just that, more conversations need to be had, more people coming together. And I do think those revenue opportunities are going to be absolutely mind-blowing. But we got to get there first, and let's do it on our own terms.
If we think about this action mode, instead of just talking and getting people in discussions, what would be the ideal next steps to start actually building concrete stuff?
Yeah, so as this panel came together, I invited these guys to a group as well as a group of other data scientists and people focusing on AI. So right now, I think I've put about 8 people in this group to start meeting with some frequency to discuss this. I think getting kind of one bigger group together to collaborate and really kind of contribute almost in like a forum or a format type thing where a lot of people can contribute ideas that are considered. And then again, kind of looking across at all the different impacted parties and making sure all of them are at the table. So I am hoping to kind of start this now where the voices come together. And the first step is we're all going to meet with a few other people and figure out, who wants to contribute to this? What is the most effective way to do that? And then how do we get the support so that, the industry is acting together and collaboratively? So, yeah, so it is starting.
We're in.
and maybe I can go back to that sandwich model, the way you have top-down, bottom-up, and the middle working together. So on the top-down, the extra legislation you're doing in the EU, super important. Then you've got AI fighting AI, and then us connecting the dots at the bottom with others. And that's how you glue it together. And many compliments to all the activities that happened in Brussels, because the music industry was the first one to go after this, because you always had to be in the protective mode. So I used to work for government. I'm still an advisor to the Dutch police in the field of AI. And if you look at the activities there happening, also if you look at what's happening with semi-autonomous drones and all those fields, sometimes I feel kind of what we're doing here can also work there. So that the music industry is the first one to start as a testing ground. I don't know if you've ever looked at Korea at Hyundai, just for fun. Google Hyundai robotics. So every dancing robot video you've seen over Christmas over the last few years, they're all been bought by Korea, and they're all building like killer drones and everything. So everything you imagined of the robot wars, they're actually building that. So that's my drive in this. How can we collectively build accountable AI, test it here, where you combine the legal system with technologies and like the AIs in there. So hopefully the music industry can be the first one to put like a ground layer for that.
Here in California, we've seen a lot of talks about AI and also many AI companies. From your experience and what you've seen here this week, what has been the most inspiring thing, and who would be the one you would select to collaborate?
Yeah. If you look at as you mentioned, all the AI companies that are here, but also the ones that are in Nashville and Austin, so like Boomi and Ames, and they all try to work together with the industry. So I would almost say complement all the AI companies that are here. They're trying to do an effort. And so there will be good AI companies, there will be bad AI companies, and there will be the gray ones. Let's get the gray ones to the good, and those ones you can detect. So, and collectively we build boundaries and walls.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Will, any thoughts?
I think, completely agree. I think, interestingly, there's been a bit of a interest in, the health side. And we were discussing this last night about, the positive impacts on that and some of the, interesting companies that are here and people from the research community. I've had some interesting discussions there. So obviously, kind of less on the copyright side or the copyright detection side, but it's still an interesting place. And I think, more research in that area is very important.
Yeah. So imagine this use case. I don't know if you saw yesterday Medi Music, and there was people who are old and people who are young who are depressed, and that's funded by the NHS and NIH in the US. So imagine the following: you're old, you have Parkinson or something, and the best times of your life is always youth. So what if that 50 songs of your youth you really like? So what if you could have an AI that's only trained on those 5 singers of the past, and you have your unlimited playlist of your 5 favorite singers? So your 10 euros per month would go unlimited forever to that artist of the past. So you can have all these quirky new little models on that, if you just train them on that subset of your favorite artists, and you have your unlimited playlist.
So I think for me, the inspiration it's very similar to what you said, which is just that everybody's here in this room. And I expected it to be a lot of artists and catalogs, which is a lot of the conferences I go to. It's been a lot of people, I think, here to innovate, to try to do it right. That's the sense that I'm getting from all the conversations I'm having. So yeah, I think the most inspirational has just been how open everybody is to the explorations, to understanding what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and ensuring that the right path is followed. So I guess I would use ethical has been a good word that keeps surfacing.
Very nice. All right, audience. Now it's your turn. We have some time for questions.
Yes, thank you. Great panel. I'm trying to figure out what would be the incentives, not as a catalog owner, but from an individual rights owner, like an artist or a composer, to opt in or not opt out from this. Because I have no problem seeing that at a general level, it can accrue quite a lot of money. But do you have any concepts or ideas of what it would mean at an individual level? If you opt in and your music is being used to train some robot to create something that in the end will perhaps compete with your original material in some way, the money that you get for that, what is the size of it? What is do you have any concept on that?
So as far as the training that we've done so far, it is fractions of pennies. Yes. The artists know that, and they're game. I mean, they understand, and a lot of them were really excited on this call because they're using AI, and they're seeing how effective AI has been in their own practice. What I did assure all of our artists is the generative side is permission-based. It is all opt-in, and I have told them I'm only presenting opportunities that I see where they become an ongoing participant in revenue. Everything is fractions of pennies, though, right? I mean, whether it's streaming revenue or uses of their music on YouTube, publishing platforms. So I think to them what's exciting is you'll either be in or you'll be left out. And so I think what's exciting to them is the idea that they can proliferate through new opportunities that are surfacing. And I guess probably adding a little bit of clarity to the ones that I'm talking about. The opportunities that people are bringing to me, I'm going to give you a specific example. I don't think he would mind. He's in this initial group. His name is Toby, and he's the CEO of a company called Two Shot. He has basically built out a model that does have provenance. It's right there. You can see it. It's great. As well as compensation going forward. And it's to create sample packs. I think he's doing something really innovative. I brought artists of ours to the table. Like, we did a call with him. They demoed the product. They showed us how it all works. That's the kind of thing that I think is exciting. Because now you take 10 songs, and now that can make money in all these new ways. So I've seen a lot of, adjacencies, not that specifically, but adjacencies that give them that opportunity to make more as opposed to making less. And I do really believe that human-made art, there's a guy named Jesse Josephson, if any of you guys follow him. I believe he's actually listed in the Suno and Udio lawsuit. He's been doing like deep diving into all of this. And his most recent post this week was like, I'm actually over AI now. I was so impressed with it at first, meaning the generative AI just strictly. He's like, I was so impressed with it at first, but I am already seeing where human prevails. And so I think that's always something that we need to understand is I think people will have this longing for human-made content.
Yeah, a quick add-on question. So in the training set, do your artists also become part of the final ISRC? So say there's a new song created, can you also get a revenue share there? Because then it gets interesting. Then you get some money for the training, but you also become part of the future revenue share of that recording.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, yes.
And there was an example yesterday of somebody creating unlimited AI music in games, and then you would become part of that.
So I'm imagining this being 1954, and behind you say solutions for rock and roll music, because at that time rock and roll was scary to everybody, and people who liked it were villains, and it was killing classical music. And now, of course, it means a million things and has a different view and is not a term that anyone can define. Do you think that generative AI is a term that also will become fragmented a million ways by those who wrote it, by what's good, by what's bad? And if it is different, what are those likely separations of generative AI, and how do we deal with different types of it, as opposed to this brute force or blunt instrument that we're doing right now?
If in one way, it's a sample box, it's a sample machine, and sampling has been around often. We had a question yesterday with the Deezer session here, is that ideally what you want to have in the next generation of AI algorithms, that there's like a compliance layer in there, because then you can loop it back to the rightful owners. So I just look at it from an engineering perspective, and I think we can tackle this beast like that. And it's not something to be super scary. It's a sample machine. But that's why the industry, from top down, with support from legal, with AI fighting AI, you have to work all together.
Samples were individually cleared. So samples are individually cleared, so you can negotiate your economic revenue from.
Yeah, that's a difficult solution because it's one by one.
Yeah. In the case of the societies we work with, they choose for, some of them are choosing now for an opt-out for everyone, but if an individual wants to opt in, that should be individual. So I do think we're going to go in that direction. But then from a technical perspective, that's not hard. But it only works if 100% has been cleared.
Right.
Yep.
Actually, there's one other interesting rock and roll analogy. I don't know if people are aware of this, but a huge proportion of the Led Zeppelin catalog was sued for being an infringement of blues music that they did not credit. Huge amounts of those songs. I think there were 25 cases, 35 cases against Jimmy Page and Robert Plant because they just stole old blues songs and redid them. And the bluesman finally got up and said, well, hang on a second, that's my song. So that's a form of generative writing that also had its own problems.
Mm. I mean, we target solutions at that, with similarity scores and things like that. And there are tools available today that can help you do that. But us as a company kind of want to stay away from that as much as we can, just because, similarity scores are one thing, but, proper infringement's another.
All right, one more.
I have one question regarding attribution. When you do the data learning, the solution you propose, Jenn, is just to do the data learning on a subset of music belonging to someone or to a company or whatever, or is it the idea to do data learning on a big set of data, and is there then an attribution still possible for the output coming from the data learning?
So I'm going to actually let Dan take that one because this has been the conversation we've been having. Is I've been kind of saying to him, how can you give me confidence that if we have a large data set, and if we do act cohesively, if a lot of catalogs come together and act cohesively in sort of these data training, collective licensing models, how are we given the confidence that there is going to be that, again, provenance and trackability for future earnings?
Yeah, because if you have an AI system that trains on a gazillion songs, and then if there's an output song, you cannot detect what the training set was. And the guy from Deezer showed it really nicely yesterday, because if they have access to the input, then they can map 99.8% on what it was trained on. But if you don't, it drops to 0 instantly. And it's called unsupervised learning, and that's always in AI like a tough subject. That's why, if we work together, get on good foots with the AI companies, get access to the input and the output, and then glue it together, because then you can have attribution on the output linked to the input. So that's why I think we have to take a more pragmatic approach. Yes, because if you have access to the input set, so my expectation, going back to the rock and roll, the next phase of AI algorithms will get more clusters in those, because then you can train on a small subset of, say, all of Jenn's library. So you train on that, and then they have attribution going back to that training set, so that you start more training on small subsets, because then we can tackle this.
So the idea is to train or to be able to trace back to a subset of data that has been used for the training each time for each output. So
yeah. Yeah, and that also means that AI companies will have to retrain their models. And it will cost them some money, but hey, you trained on copyright that's not yours. And I actually did a thesis back then on neural networks that actually forget information. So it is possible for those networks to forget information.
Thank you. Amen to that. I think we need to wrap up and head for lunch. I want to thank you for your insights and optimism. And let's continue the conversation upstairs. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.